Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the country. My name is Corey Halstead, and I am honored and excited to be here for Built to Scale, talking about a very new and exciting topic that is taking over, or at least penetrating very deeply, our beloved landscape industry. So today we're going to talk about that, mergers and acquisitions and entrance of private equity into the landscape industry and how really it affects what we do and what I do um, in the marketing industry. So I do not come from the PE world, do not have years of experience in mergers and acquisitions, but do have more than I'd like to admit in the landscape industry and in running an agency called Halstead Media, where we market sort of the top 5 or 6% of landscape companies in the industry. Now, which also includes, of course, platform brands and working with private equity firms and landscape, leaders of those platform brands and boards and things like that. So our world is changing very fast, as is the worlds of the independent operators of small regional landscaping companies. So today we're going to talk about that change and how it is really, really affecting our industry as a whole. So I think on today's quick non-webinar chat, which is a brief sort of 15-minute coming in hot download of what's happening and how we think we're meeting the new challenge. We are talking about an industry that is built on heart and hustle, right? So if we have operators on the call, or if we have private equity professionals on the call, or landscape leadership folks that are on these platform brands, you all know this now, right? This industry is built by people who have learned on the job, they've done the work, and in many cases, or most cases, have poured their lives into their small businesses. Interesting fact, though, as rapidly as this industry has exploded, 90+% of these local regional companies don't break $5 million in annual revenue, right? Most don't even break three. So while these companies are 100% the backbone of the US economy at large, right? It is a small business world. It was not built in the boardroom, it was built in the field. And even those clients that we service at Halstead that have grown those businesses to 30 and $40 million a year businesses, they still talk and reminisce and remember all of the things that were put forth when it was one crew in a truck. Right. So it is a very, very unique industry with a lot of pride and a lot of heart. That industry is now seeing an entrance or a wave of M&A or merger and acquisition activity, right? So if we look at over the last bunch of years, beginning basically in 2020, 2021, we saw a sharp increase, but over the last 2 years, there's been, 83 plus deals in just the landscape space alone, right? And these are merger and acquisition deals. So businesses, small, three-ish to five-ish million dollar companies, sometimes, of course, larger, but those businesses are being bought, acquired by a PE-backed platform company or holding company, which we'll look at in a little bit, and then rolling those companies up into a larger organization. So this has happened in other home services. We saw this in HVAC for sure, right? Happened maybe 10-ish years ago. And we saw it with dental. So we're seeing sort of the roll-up effect of those businesses all being brought into a bigger holding company now, right? But the challenge is those platforms are being built faster, just like they are right now in the landscaping industry, faster than they can be systematized or that they are being systematized, right? So I make a joke that the first 10 years of Halstead, I might have had 5 private equity or merger and acquisition type conversations in my role now, which is primarily sales at Halstead. and I have about 5 a week now for the last 2 years. So really, really different. The emerging completely into the landscape industry now. So these things are rolling up now. There's a ton of activity. It's not sort of heating up, it's hot, right? And so now we have all of the big players that are already established, the Savitrees, the Brightviews, the Heartlands, and hundreds more that we speak to day in and day out that are in more infancy stages of this journey. It's a race to maturity now, right? And so what we have is competition against these platform companies at an upper level. And the ones with the systems will scale well. And then the risk is, of course, being a platform without a brand, which is happening quite often across the landscape industry now. So what's again very interesting about this change in the landscape industry with mergers and acquisitions and the entrance of private equity is that this is kind of, or really a lot, how Halstead was founded, right? So 13 plus years ago, my wife and I founded this agency. I came from boots in the ground landscape industry for 25 plus years, right? Like commercial maintenance from the time I was 14. And Anna came from Global 100 Consulting, right? So these two worlds for us have always been a mashup, and our clients have said that it's a unique product that ends up coming to market. So we've built this, of course, with the help of our amazing team, but it is this sort of real world of this collision that is happening now. And so it's interesting to have watched this, and it's been interesting to be on the ground floor again in another transition. I guess, 13 plus years ago, I was giving seminars about how leading landscape companies at that time really should invest in a proper website. That is how fast things are changing in this industry. Of course, we know now leaders have amazing marketing systems, produce content at scale, and all of those goodies that is necessary to get going. So as these two worlds collide, we talk a lot about alignment. And what the heck is alignment, right? We need these two worlds speaking a language that each side can understand. We need these two worlds completely aligned in the main things that need to be done to drive growth across the new organization. So on the private equity side or the platform brand side, AKA holding company, we need a lot of things. We need systems, right? That's how we scale large companies and large groups of companies. We need standardization. We need control over the brand. We need to have data in the hands of those who need it and different data depending on which role of that person. We need to be speedy. We need to integrate. We need recruiting automation, all of these things, right? But then when we come into an industry, a legacy industry like the landscape industry, surprise, those things are often not in place. So it's a difficult integration. It's a difficult roll up. And that is kind of where we are right now. Many, many platforms that are PE backed are making incredible acquisition velocity, meaning they are acquiring companies at scale. And then they get to a certain point where it becomes a difficult thing to manage, right? There's no systems in place. There's no CRMs. There hasn't been really formalized recruiting. So what ends up happening is often a lot of chaos, frustration, and misalignment. And that is kind of where Halstead and where I've been spending a lot of time breaking those things down, right? From a marketing standpoint, from a sales enablement standpoint, and from just knowing this industry inside and out and the change that it's going through now. So what are the faces that these, the challenges that they face when they come in, private equity firms to kind of roll these up, right? We're going to go out and we're going to bring in 10 individual landscaping companies under one new umbrella. Well, a lot of challenges come out very quickly, right? And we've seen this with even the largest roll-ups in our industry thus far, right? And it's really has stalled growth for those platforms at certain different levels. So data blind spot is a huge one, right? Because each of these, call it 10 different brands, are operating on 10 different systems with disconnected CRMs and sales pipelines and systems. Very, very difficult to manage and understand what's happening across the entire platform. There are often recruiting bottlenecks. Of course, we see that at one branch local landscaping companies, right? But then magnify that problem over a course of multiple geographical areas and numerous individual companies, and we've got ourselves a real problem, right? The other thing that we see a ton of is that there's all different vendors operating for each of these different individual landscaping companies because they've all had their 20-ish year journey to get where they are before the sale, right? So one vendor is doing ads over here, and one vendor has built this site over here, and all of the sites are built on different platforms and they don't speak to each other. Anybody that has been involved in one of these roll-ups or a potential sale understands that these things really do cause slowdowns. And then, of course, brand inconsistency. So if we're going to unite multiple brands, private equity professionals need to bring value down to the operating business, right? Down to the one single branch that sold into the platform. And the way that we feel that we can help bring that value is to get rid of all of these challenges from a marketing and sales standpoint. So a little background for those that maybe are operators, right? Because there's a ton of those that I speak with as well that are, hey, how do I prepare my business for an exit? How do I create a legacy brand that is going to be able to be valuable to my son or daughter down the line, or how do I exit? This is sort of a standard PE playbook. And coming from the non-PE world, and then looking at it from a landscape lens, I think there's a lot of opportunity to save a lot of frustration. So stage one is sort of like the thesis of this company. We're going to start a new company that's going to acquire these 10 new companies. What is our vision for that new company? What value are we going to bring, and what is going to be our first deal, our first acquisition? And then they go out and we start looking for those good, ideal fit companies. Stage two is when we really start to increase acquisition velocity, right? We have a full pipeline of companies that could be a great fit for our new holdco to purchase. So really moving fast, guys and gals, right? Like we're talking about adding hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue in 5 years, that kind of speed. And when you move that fast, then you know that a lot of things fall. So very little light integration happens during this stage two. And this can be 0 to 5, 0 to 8 acquisitions, maybe 10 acquisitions, right? Then we get to this next stage where we're staring down a bunch of these individual brands, these logos that we've stacked up. We see all kinds of different sales pipeline systems. We're challenged to get the reporting that we need. There's a disjointed recruiting that's happening, and we call this the oh boy moment, right? And these are a lot of the conversations that I've had thus far in the last 3-year journey of diving into this stuff. And so at this point, it's time to start to systematize this, or else the private equity and the platform company is struggling to bring value to the individual operator who sold into it, right? Because the promise was there. So at this point, it's 10 times or more than that harder to fix this hot mess. And what ends up happening is that wheels start turning at this point, right? So growth slows. And then there's pressure to increase acquisition velocity, but the mess is going to continue to increase, right? So to me and to us and to those that have done this in other industries, right? This is where scale really becomes strain and the problem that we are solving when we really didn't even know it. So what do I mean by that we didn't even know it? Backtrack the last, 8+ years. We, day in and day out, work with the top 6-ish% of landscape companies, single branch, multiple branch location companies, and we deploy the Halstead system. This is across residential, this is across commercial, this is across maintenance, this is across design build. And this system has been what we have lived, breathed, and proved out over that last 8 or 9 years. So driving revenue growth at the one branch location, right? Driving recruiting results, all of those goodies. And we do that through this flywheel that we're looking at now. It's a very strategy first approach, right? Where we build out the foundation, then we go out and we build brand and pipeline, again, whether that's commercial or residential. And then we work with tools and technology that is well integrated to drive, track, close, and report on those deals. So this is what we've been heads down doing for the last lot of years, right? But what we didn't realize was happening, or we didn't realize what was going to happen, is what's been happening now for the last 3 or 4 years with all of the merger and acquisition activity. Turns out that as we were deploying that across all of those top 6%-ish type companies in the industry, we were proving out something that was going to be incredibly fitting for where we are now and the needs of platform brands. So what we did is back ourselves up just one level higher, right? And we dove into what do these platforms really need through working with now 4+ ish of these larger platform brands. What do we need? What do they need to truly drive value and growth that goes deeper than purely inorganic growth or merger and acquisition growth, right? How do we actually drive value and growth at the branch or independent brand location? So we have to do it at the platform brand first because that's the parent of this group of companies, right? So we unify the positioning there. We have to support the national or larger geographical brand, right? But they also need a shared tech stack that unifies CRM systems, recruiting, proposals, all of the things that are happening at the small independent legacy operator level now, right? More slowly, we certainly need those at the platform level. But again, going back to make sure that we're not just living and dying in inorganic growth, which can be a brutal thing over years, we have to build out the marketing engine, right? So central brand playbooks, what are we going to do at the holdco level? And what are we going to do for each individual brand that we are marketing and growing? Pipeline generation systems, all of those goodies, right? And then down at the opco or operating company or individual branch location, we need to execute marketing at that level as well, right? And through all of this, we need to centralize analytics and reporting and get visibility into all of these metrics that really show us as a team here at Halstead and the leadership teams at both the PE side and the platform side, what is working and what is happening. So this pyramid is a great fit, right? But what it turns out that we didn't know we were building, for the last 8+ years was this bridge, right? This bridge that is one system across the holdco all the way down to each individual operating company. This is what we're calling the Halstead system layer, right? So this bridge was a nice bonus. I wish that we could say that we saw all of this coming and it was a genius play, but it just so happens that what we've been doing day in and day out is just a great fit. So if we click down on that pyramid once more, right, and we see, okay, what does this sort of platform system or this layer actually look like in action, right? Up at the top of the holdco platform company, we need things to standardize growth, standardize marketing and sales, right? It's essentially the foundation for the growth that comes ahead. Brand strategy, playbooks of what this company is and isn't, how do we communicate in the marketplace, where are the synergies across all of our 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, 30 different brands that are underneath this, and how do we streamline our recruitment marketing, aka both from a leadership and board level all the way down through each branch level, and then how do we also communicate to future acquisition targets on our M&A side so that we can continue our inorganic growth. So that's all happening sort of as a foundational first step at the holdco level. Down one level, we have our marketing tech stack, right? So this integration and standardization across tools for marketing and sales enablement is critical. So we're integrating and standardizing the CRM with HubSpot. We are injecting into the landscape industry, which I'm incredibly excited about, proper sales proposals, right? Outside of what's coming from Aspire, but real sales proposals that show value to the decision maker. We're doing that through a tool called Proposify and integrating that as well. We are exposing all that we need to know about pipelines, right? Across, again, residential pipelines, commercial pipelines, all of these activities, tracking this all the way through a deal's life cycle. And then, of course, reporting back on that through cutting edge integrations with Aspire and HubSpot, actual revenue attribution, meaning from very first click of decision maker 6 months ago, what content did they actually view, all the way through when did they sell and when did the opportunity close in Aspire. True marketing attribution. So that tech stack is deployed at the holdco level and then all rolled up across individual brands. One click down is integration and enablement, right? So this is, we have a plan, and plans reduce chaos, right? Which is what's happening currently. So when we inject plans, and the earliest possible moment that we can inject these plans in a holdco/platform's life cycle, the less chaos we have, right? But even if we're working backwards, we need to standardize onboarding of new acquisitions when it comes to marketing and sales. We need to configure all of this stuff. We need to roll all this stuff out and figure out how it all gets activated. This system of ours and our team does this as well. So when we go down, we know what we're doing, we know how we're doing it, we know the tools that we're using, and then we are going to deploy that all the way down to the needs and opportunities of each regional operating company underneath the platform, right? So now we're talking about local market growth, campaign management, brand visibility across the core target areas geographically of each of these companies. And this is all, of course, powered back by the same system that's been in action for 8 years for all of the clients that we've been working with before these roll-ups began. So it's really come full circle. It's been an exciting thing to watch it happen. And I personally am super pumped about the next stage of our industry, our beloved landscape industry. So that's kind of how the system works, how we tie in HubSpot and Aspire and Element and Proposify through really advanced integrations. And we get all of this data and performance flowing through all the way up to the operating company, holding company rather. There's a bit of a debate in the private equity world in different verticals in particular about what is the value or how do we best grow this platform. And I think when we look across great examples of these roll-ups in other industries and verticals, it's clear to me anyway that there's a big hidden risk of inorganic growth only, right? So growth fueled just by acquisitions, right? It leads to limited silos and definitely growth plateaus. So where we believe the future of this is, and what we're seeing now with the work that we're doing, is through a much more balanced growth strategy, right? Very strategic M&A, paired with actual proper marketing to grow each of these individual brands organically at the brand level, right? Not only does this help the entire portfolio of companies grow, it increases valuations, increases brand, all of those things that happen, but it also helps the entire group of companies to scale more consistently and more stably. So that is the role that we are excited to be filling. And this is sort of like inorganic plus organic, and we believe it wins, right? So we've seen this with one of the greatest probably M&A machines in home services with the Culligan story. If you haven't checked this one out, those operators that are looking to prepare their businesses for exits, this is a fantastic one. But if you look, and there's countless of these examples, right? But pairing marketing, CRM alliance, sales pipeline, all of this stuff together with M&A is a winning strategy. So that is essentially how we are avoiding chaos, doing what we've done for years and years now at the platform level, and driving growth across these exciting new groups of companies in the landscape industry. So quick little brief to the point. I'm excited about this format as well, rather than like 60-minute webinars. Hopefully get you everything about what's happening, how fast it's moving, and the solutions and systems that we have in place to help support both operators and PE-backed platforms. So no matter where we might be able to help out at the OpCo level and the infrastructure build out, you're just planning and launching a new platform company, or maybe you've just acquired a bunch and we need to reverse integrate, all good things, all ready to attack those problems. I'm happy to jump on a call to discuss. You can scan that QR code or go to the halsteadmedia.com website and we can continue a chat.